I think for Minnesota's LGBTQ communities, I think, we have approached, sort of the response and navigation of this moment from a couple of different angles. So the first is providing spaces of care and community for folks. And so the first thing we did, post-election day was hold a briefing for community about what we knew and what we could expect, but then scheduled both a bunch of, community care events, as well as brought in therapists from our community to help staff our helpline to provide people with support. And then, our sort of next order of action was really preparing people to take steps both individually and collectively at a state level to help insulate themselves and our state from what we expected and have now seen as the likely anticipated harms of this administration. So that was giving folks guidance on what you can do to update identity documents, what things you should have on hand to make sure that you're well prepared in this landscape, making sure that folks are just well aware of the rights that we hold here in Minnesota and the protections that we've had through things like the Minnesota Human Rights Act, which has protected LGBTQ folks fully since 1993. And so, those protections and groundings help folks to have a sense of stability, but they also give us the ability to push on our elected leaders and folks in positions of power and say, we need you to affirmatively stand on Minnesota's existing law and affirm that we should have these continuing protections and access to the things we need here in the state, even in a shifting federal landscape. And I think we've seen that play out over the last month or so, as Minnesota, unlike a number of other states, has seen no shifts significantly to our current legal environment, even with significant pressure from the White House.
Our organizer actually took a group of clergy members who we have been consistently organizing with RFDC funding for the past as long as we've been funded by this grant. And we took those clergy members to go to one of our state senators' offices who we thought wasn't showing up as much as we wanted them to on the federal landscape. Having this network of faith leaders who are invested in LGBTQ rights in Minnesota, especially because we are a purple state, there are places where that voice, that leader of faith's voice, means so much, that all of our years of organizing with faith leaders with the RFDC funding is sort of coming to fruition in a really powerful way. That we have this backbone of people whose influence means a lot in our state.
But we have so much going on right now that I think is speaks volumes to where we're putting our energy. So we've got, a Trans Day of Visibility event planned at the Capitol. 2 years ago, we had almost 300 folks attend that. And I suspect this year we're going to have a huge outpouring of just energy and excitement about being engaged in those spaces.
We'll also have our Youth Summit event where about 400 LGBTQ youth and adults, and they attend workshops, both about very important, serious topics such as gender-affirming care, which I'm sure they have a lot of questions about right now, and how they can advocate for themselves and their school. And we also, with that RFDC connection, we also have affinity spaces because we know this work is intersectional. So, LGBTQ youth with intersecting identities can come together and talk about their issues. So we have one for Black LGBTQ youth, for rural LGBT youth, and for the RFDC connection for LGBTQ youth of faith, who I'm sure are feeling a lot of complicated feelings right now.
Our work is the right work. Organizing across the state, organizing with communities and supporting them in this moment of change is the critical work. We didn't make a wholesale shift post-election because our work is deeper and longer than one particular electoral outcome or one set of policies.